I told you guys we're gonna start this off from where we left off with the Andrew Tate thing.
What makes this moment so interesting? Andrew's not simply dealing with criticism online or defending himself in an interview. He's now living inside the legal process he spent years talking about. And for the first time, the public is beginning to hear how that process is affecting him mentally. So just a few hours ago, Tate gave us a closer look at what he says he is currently facing. And this is where the reality of the situation really starts to sink in. In a statement posted from Andrew Tate's X account, he openly described the conditions he says he's being held under, because he also claimed he had no phone access. Andrew said he's currently being held inside a special housing unit, also known as the SHU. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what that means, the SHU is a section of a federal detention facility where someone is separated from the general inmate population. They may be housed alone or with another detainee, but they generally spend most of the day inside a locked cell and have far fewer opportunities to move around or interact with other people. But being placed in the SHU does not automatically mean Andrew did something violent inside the facility. People can end up there for several different reasons. Sometimes while officials are still deciding where to place them, sometimes during an investigation, and sometimes simply because they believe the person needs to be separated or protected from everyone else. The SHU basically has two different sides to it. One is administrative, meaning someone can be placed there for security protection or while officials figure out what to do with them. And then the other is disciplinary, which is used as punishment after someone breaks the facility's rules. So right now, we still do not know which category Andrew falls under or exactly why he was placed there. But according to Andrew, the reality of being inside the SHU is extremely restrictive. He says there's no commissary, no phone access, and no time in the yard. And after 6 days inside, he's already questioning why he's being treated this way. And I just want to paint the picture for you, okay? When it comes to specifically this place that he's inside, people who are held inside there have described cells becoming unbearably hot, with some men reportedly sleeping in their underwear just to stay cool. Others have complained about cockroaches crawling through the cells, broken toilets overflowing with waste, and constant smell of urine and feces.
Hey, Yvette says, "What's up?" Shout out to you. Let me know what part of the world you guys are from. We're gonna get this thing cracking with Andrew Tate. Obviously, this is a very serious matter in Andrew Tate right now. There's brown water coming out of the prison facility that he is currently serving under. Now, a lot of people who don't like Andrew Tate are gonna look at this and say, "Ha, you know what? Good riddance. He deserves it." There are people out there who are going to be fair minded that are going to look at this and say, well, is this constitutional or is this just the natural course of action right now, being that he just happened to have been locked up in a prison that is facing these particular challenges right now? Cockroaches, lack of air conditioning. And then on top of that, he says, knew you were suspect. He says, ban me again. Ban you again. What is suspect? And if I banned you in the last chat, then more than likely you deserved it. I don't know you from a can of paint. You say something that's dumb or something that's stupid, I'm obviously going to really rip one in on you or just get rid of you, right? Like, here's something you got to understand, right? When I was younger, all right, Savachi Financial, shout out to you, my man. Yee, shout out to you. Lionel Manchella says hi. Lionel Manchella, shout out to you. Sounds like a very Italian name, right? So, all right. Back in the days, I used to get angry very easily the minute somebody would disrespect me, right? Rightfully so. You know, if you come from anywhere, if you come from the hood, or if you come from, an honor culture of some sort, right? You don't just let anybody come and talk to you in any kind of way, right? He says, when you were young, LOL. Yeah, bro, you know how it was, man. You know what I mean? Just like this, he's talking about sad boy. How about this? How about you being sad because you, my friend, just got sent to the shadow realm. Nobody knows you. Nobody cares to know you. No one cares what you got going on. You ain't got no motion. That's just it. I'm going to get rid of you. Back in the days, you know what I would have done? I would have doxed you. I would have looked up your information and I would have showed up at your house. But then it's like, why do all that? It's a waste of time. We're not even really beefing. You don't really know me from a can of paint. And let's be honest about this, if you were to meet me in person, there is no way you would say something you completely disrespectful to me in any kind of way. Because if you did, I would front kick you in the face. I would leg kick you. I would rib kick you. And then I would throw you to the ground like you were an unwanted pregnant woman. Really, that's how I would treat you. I would treat you like that in the worst way possible. But you're not in front of my face. What I realize is that most people who are in front of my face would never, and I mean ever, ever, say it or talk to me the way that you would in a chat. Because let's be honest about this, the majority of you are nice people, and that's completely okay. There's nothing wrong with being a nice person. Me, on the other hand, I'm not a nice person. Okay, there is nothing. I mean, look, uh, Allah knows who I am. My real friends in real life knows who I am. That's just what it really comes down to. All right, it is what Allah judges, and it is how I treat my friends and how my friends, treat me. That is what matters. I love when people say, he says, did you get the picture? What picture are you talking about? Lionel Manchina says, he's just trying to talk about life. Yes, yes, precisely, Lionel. You are 100% correct about that because obviously, right now, the main topic at hand of this particular live stream is Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate has captured the imagination of people around the world. This is the reason why we all are talking about him. And then Corbin, the hacker, the idiot right here, says, cool, nobody cares. You seem to care enough to come in here and type that. So, how about this? You got sent to the Shadow Realm because, quite frankly, nobody cares about you. Don't nobody care that you're a hacker. If you were a hacker, you wouldn't be telling nobody about it. If your real name was Corbin, you wouldn't be calling yourself Corbin the hacker. Okay, because I certainly would not be calling myself on any online capacity, whether it was a burner account, call myself Kai the burglar or thief, Kai the unaliver, Kai the brute, Kai the whatever, fill in the blank, right? Sabachi Financial says no more Mr. Nice Guy. Of course, man. He says, yo, stop being mean to him. Um, I am a reflection of what you give to me. If you decide you want to be rude, I'm going to be 10 times more rude to you. If you decide you want to be aggressive, I'm going to be 100 times more aggressive than you. If you decide you want to be verbally disrespectful, my boy, I come from Sacramento, California. Okay, it doesn't get any more disrespectful than that. And I grew up in the East Coast. It doesn't get any more disrespectful than that. I was made for this. I was made to stream. I was made to have a YouTube platform. I was made to be in front of the camera. I was made for all of this. Notice how I'm talking to you right now like this is a pre recorded video. You understand that? I'm saying all of this to you in clear and precise articulation, no stuttering, okay? No mince words about what I'm going to think about what I'm going to say. I know what I'm going to say. And as a result of that, there is no stutter in my step. There is no hesitation in the way that I talk. I speak with full confidence and this is live. This one thing, if this is a pre-recorded video, anybody can look confident in front of a pre-recorded video. What you are watching right now is live right in front of you. Very few of you would have the M&M skills to come up with words on the fly like this and And then on top of that, diss people that are trying to diss you online, which is fine. I welcome this as well. This is what I wanted. This is what I envisioned. I envision that people are going to love me, but you also can't be delusional into thinking that nobody's going to hate you. Of course, people are going to hate you. And this is the classic example of it. Here's another thing you got to understand, right? He says, "Oh, my days. Oh, boy. We're really going to get cooking on this one." Lionel says, "Yo, I have to go. Bye. Good night." Yeah, yeah, man. I understand, man. It is a late night live stream after all. I don't usually get my usuals here, but what I do notice when I do the late night live streams is that I do get a different set of audience, at least in the chat, right? Guys like you, Sabachi Financial, I know he's up right now because we live in the same, well, yeah, we live in the same time zone. I'm not going to say where, but yeah. So, naturally he's going to be up, and obviously maybe people in Europe are up right now, so we can get some European audience here. But he says, "We out here." That's right, man. Sacramento, Chicago, Jersey, all of that. We're out here. Here's something you guys have to understand, right? Before, when I was younger, I used to really get offended the minute that somebody would say something very disparaging towards me. The first thing I would think about is revenge. The other thing I would think about is revenge. And then the other thing I would think about is how I'm going to make him pay for what he said to me. He says the streets is active. Oh boy, yeah. Yeah, you're damn right about that. Yeah, man, the streets is active. Um but now, this is what I realized as I got older, right? As I got older, as I realized my true potential, as I built my reputation, on the streets or wherever, I could build my reputation, whether it was in the corporate, rooms, whether it was in the academia, whether it was in whatever job or field that I was in, whether it was in fighting or whether it was here in YouTube, whatever it is that I did, right? I tried to make a name for myself, right? He says, tell him a gym beef. I actually had one recently, actually. Yeah, obviously, it's always the steam room, right? Nobody nowadays says anything to me in the artificial football field because, the minute that I get out there, people know, all right, this is a room for, serious people that work out here, right? You know what I mean? You can't just be, freaking doing some, I don't know, some like, stretch poses that you're doing while I'm trying to like push a sled there or whatever. You can't be doing none of that. But it's always in the sauna because it's a little bit intimate, and then most people like to just sit there or whatever. Me, I like to shadow box in the sauna, and I'll tell you why, right? Obviously, because it helps with increasing your VO2 max levels because you're doing heat shock therapy while you're training in heat. So after I do a hard training session with explosives and powerlifting and strength and conditioning, I go straight into the sauna and do a good shadow boxing for 10, 15 minutes and then go and so anyways, this week this dumb Karen complains that the sweat flew right into her, right? So she makes a big scene about it. So I said, "You know what? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do all that. All right. I didn't mean to do all that." So then she wants to continue and perpetuate or this and that. I don't know what she was, maybe white, maybe Mexican. So guess what? You know me. I am a mirror of what you show me. If you show me kindness, no problem. I'll show you kindness. If you want to act like a gentleman, no problem. I'm going to act like a gentleman. If you want to act like a bitch, you want to act like a Karen, I'm going to do it right back to you. I told her, "Man, F you, you bitch. You all types of stuff, right?" I'm actually censoring myself. So guess who comes to her defense, right? I'm looking around the room. I'm like thinking, man, all right, I'm right here, talking smack to this girl or whatever. I'm waiting for the next guy in here to do something because you know how it is. There's always some simp ass dudes that want to do something right. And I'm sorry to say this, but in particular, there's a lot of black males out there that whenever they see, like a woman, especially if it's a black woman, right? Or if it's a woman of minority, they got to go and jump in and like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, nah, man. You know what I mean? Like, this is the reason why a lot of brothers get killed, bro. There's a lot. Yeah, this is the reason why a lot of brothers get killed because they want to go and defend, a woman. So guess who defended her? It was a stud who defended her. For those of you that know what a stud is, I'm not talking about a male. A stud is a slang for somebody who's a female that dresses like a male, all right, or acts like a male as well, sometimes in a thuggish form, right? So that's who came to her aid. I'm like, I said to her, I'm like, man, listen, you better sit your ass down. I'm like, you have no idea what you are dealing with. Like, this is the problem, right? Like, people think because they are of a certain gender that they can talk to. Look, I'll tell you this, all right? I got homies that don't give a damn if you are a female. Okay, you will get smacked. Okay, if you're trying to like break up a fight and you're a female, don't do that. Don't do that. Because I got homies that will smack you up and will worry about the consequences later. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that. Don't be a mediator. Yes, she was trying to be a mediator, Sabachi. That was the weird thing about it. She was trying to be a, you know what, man? I did have one of my gym sauna situations recorded one time. I believe it was during a video of the Aiden Ross video that I did where Aiden Ross was beefing with one of the Crips. Um let me see if I can pull up that video. I do have that video here. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Aiden Ross versus LA Crips. Watch this. He says, act like a man has consequences. That's what I'm saying, man. You know what I mean? If you act like that, there's consequences. And but ultimately I left it alone. And that's sort of the life lesson, I wanted to get. But before the life lesson, I'm going to show you the drama, that unfolded. This was a separate incident, by the way. So, that I always get into some shit at the gym. So let me see here. Okay. Right here, very beginning. Oh man. See, this is the you ran into a sideboard right here. Oh my goodness, man. See, all my videos are getting too much commercials now. That's a good problem to have, I suppose. Um, I'm having a conversation over here. I ain't talking to you. I'm having a conversation over here. I ain't talking to you. I'm having a conversation over here. I ain't talking to you. I'm having a conversation over here. I ain't talking to you. Yeah, but I ain't talking to you. Ain't nobody said you can't talk up in here. Yeah, but you're. She's like, oh, sir, I'm not being disrespectful to you. You're being loud. You know what it is? I know what it is. All right. I know what it is. So this girl, right here that you hear in the background, okay, she's black. Okay. Not that that matters. Obviously, this is not about, about that. This is, yeah, don't mistake me. Look, can I be honest with you? Some people think you're a punk because of what race you are. I know that that's gonna shock a lot of people. I know that's shocking for a lot of people to hear. Yeah, they think you're a bitch because you're not. I mean, let's be honest about this, right? She thought I was a bitch because I'm not black. You know what I mean? She thought that because, maybe I come across as, somewhat of, square in the way that I talk, very proper, very professional, right? Like, I don't talk like no hoodlum or anything like that. I hang with hoodlums. I know a lot of friends of mine that are hoodlums. More than welcome in some of the most dangerous hoods in Northern California. That's neither here or there. The point of the matter is, people do think that I'm a square and they're going to want to test me out. Victory says, what up? Hey, just like what Victory asked me the other day when I was at the Lowrider show, right? What did you ask me, Victory? You asked me, hey, do some of these guys, sort of press you a little bit for sounding like a square bear, as Savachi Financial here says. Here's the thing, right? Yes, they do, but not my own homies or not the people that you've seen me interacted with, on that live stream, right? Obviously, I'm not going to go around a bunch of be completely dumb for you to do. It would not be, the smartest choice in the world for you to do that. Hold on, let me is kind of running low right here, so I'm going to charge this one. All right. So, yeah, as I was saying, it depends on who you know, right? I'm not going to go into a random hood of people that I don't know, right? Because obviously they're not going to think anything of you. He says, reading Rainbow Star Trek. What does that mean, reading Rainbow Star Trek? All right, let's go back to that video right here. The sauna incident. I always have these sauna incidents, but this was one of the few that I caught online right here. All right, I'll keep it down. All right, how about that? Let's do that. All right, you cool, you cool. For publicly social media accounts. Well, not totally, but yeah, man, real seriously. You know what I mean? Like, send me some ones if you want me to crash out right now. Like, all right, I'm glad you brought him up. Um, Savachi brought up somebody in my past that I'm very familiar with. I'm going to address that for a second, right? So there's another one. There's another one. Spike Diesel says, "What am I watching in context? Me getting into fights with people in the sauna, in the streets, and yeah, conflict finds me anywhere. Pretty much." Spike Diesel. Also, the other context that we're talking about is Andrew Tate, right? Being in prison right now in one of the worst conditions, of his life right now. So that's the other topic at hand that we're talking about. Spike Diesel says, what caused the conflict? Are you defending Tate? That's a very good question. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about the conflict, and then I'm going to tell you about where I stand with Andrew Tate, right? I'm 50-50 with Andrew Tate. Reason being is that there are many plausible theories that can point at the direction that says, all right, this man is a pimp. There are plausible theories that point, even, by the way, in his own self admission, okay, aka self snitching, that he has done things to underage girls and he has suggested these things. So it's hard for me to defend him, but at the same time, I also do believe in due process. I think even though this is not a very perfect system, I think there is certain merits to due process, right? Depending on what type of evidence they present in front of you. So, more importantly, I am interested in covering this from a neutral journalistic point of view because quite frankly, I think you would be blind if you want to do it the Myron Gaines way, because Myron Gaines kind of surprises me about how he approaches this, right? But at the same time, it doesn't surprise me because it's kind of like this, right? It's kind of like, all right, you're a federal agent, a Homeland Security agent, okay? A Homeland Security agent whose entire specialty was predicated on, guess what? Human trafficking. Has anybody ever looked at the plausible theory that perhaps maybe Myron is the guy who snitched out Andrew Tate, but in public he acts like he supports him in some kind of way? Is that plausible in any kind of way? There's some reality to that if you think about it. Myron is Mustafa in reverse, man. You're breaking the fourth wall here. This is why all these people in the chat are asking, huh? What context are we talking about? What? Marvin? Who is Marvin? Who is Murdoch? Oh boy, yeah, don't even bring up, that. Yes, it is plausible. So there you go. Homeland Security agent, Muslim American, right? So easily he's going to get in there with Andrew Tate. On top of that, Andrew Tate trusts him. He's part of the whole red pill community. So Andrew Tate has some kind of relation to him. And they've obviously became friends over the years and has actually, guess what? Invited Myron Gaines to his mansion in Romania. He says, break the wall. Murdoch loves bananas. Oh boy, here we go. Man, and then more questions about who are these people that Sabachi is talking about. Nothing, guys. We're having a little inside baseball talk here. Spike Diesel says there is no due diligence. Tate already self snitched and has over 40 women against him. He is guilty as F. And if Trump doesn't help the Tate, he is F. So is Tristan. Look, here's the thing about Trump, right? Trump ain't worried about you right now. And when I mean you, I don't mean you specifically, Spike. I mean the proverbial you, in particular, the proverbial Andrew Tate figure that I'm talking to, right? Whoever that representation of Andrew Tate is. Victory says, I haven't heard anything about this Tate stuff. Well, and that's with good reason. I think it's because it's taking place in America for one. While this is taking place in America as well, there's also a lot of news that you are inundated with, right? Like Iran, Trump, the UFC on top of that. And let's say if you're one of these guys that just concentrates on sports all day, yeah, I don't think Andrew Tate would be in your radar unless you specifically seek it out in your own algorithm, right? In your own search engine. But that is the reason why you haven't heard of Tate. I'll tell you who's heard a lot about this whole Andrew Tate thing, right? The equivalence of the proverbial you, right? Somebody in England, right? Somebody like Zayn, for example, right? Or his buddies, his homies, his mates. His mates, what I mean? Did you hear what happened with Andrew Tate? Andrew Tate got nicked. He got nicked by Scotland Yard. Oh wait, no, not yet. He got nicked by the Americans and they're about to give him up to Scotland Yard. So yeah, man. Um, but as far as what's going on with Andrew Tate right now, what you haven't heard is that he is currently drinking brown water because the federal facility that he is locked up in right now has issues with their water. So they're actively giving them not brown water, bottled water as a substitute of that. They got cockroaches everywhere. They say that the AC is not working. So yeah. Um, Here's the thing, right? I'm not the type of person that wants to see anybody go to prison. All right, that is not my trajectory. Here's the thing: I don't even hate Andrew Tate. Do I have criticisms of Andrew Tate? Sure, sure. I think that if you are a reasonable-minded Muslim, you would have to be skeptical of Andrew Tate. You would have to be critical of Andrew Tate, and with good reason. All right. There's just a lot of things about Andrew Tate that make you wonder about his practice in Islam. Very important to understand that.
Inside parts of the facility. Now, that does not mean Andrew has personally experienced every single one of those conditions, but it gives you an idea of the kind of environment surrounding him while he sits inside the shoe, with limited contact and almost no control over his daily life. So, this is clearly no place anyone would want to be, okay? I'm not trying to ever be there, right? So, Andrew himself describes the shoe as punitive housing for people who murder their cellmates, meaning he believes he's being held under conditions meant for some of the most dangerous people in the system. And keep in mind, Florida has some of the craziest people on this planet, okay? He also described being cut off from the few basic things that could make detention slightly easier, And then he even went further, saying he believes these are some of the worst conditions the US government provides to terrorists and psychopaths. Now, that is Andrew's description of the situation, not an official explanation of why he was placed there, but
Andrew Tate once mentioned that he is far more dangerous than Osama bin Laden. He said this recently, right? And I've said this prior to him saying this. I've said this about Andrew Tate, and I described him as an Osama bin Laden like figure. Now, why am I even going that far? As far as calling him an Osama bin Laden figure. Believe it or not, I know a lot about Osama bin Laden. Don't ask me how, okay? Just know that I know a lot about Osama bin Laden, and at least in his biography. Team Sneeko of Financial Savachi says he said it twice. Rejoice says, I heard Kobe killed Charlie Kirk with a helicopter. Kobe yelled his own name as he flew the helicopter directly into Charlie's neck. He says, this guy knows Osama. I know a lot of people named Osama. One of them is a rapper in LA named Zoe Osama. Shout outs to the Coast Gang Crip down in LA, Zoe Osama. Yes, I know a lot of Osamas. Laban says, free to Tates. They didn't do anything to any girl, LOL. They get all the girls with ease. Um, hmm. They get all the girls with ease. How do you know that? How do you know that? Now, look, if Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate came up to me and said, "Well, hey, I get all the girls," I don't know. I wouldn't doubt them, right? I would take it for face value. Okay, of course, you would. Of course, you would have all the girls, right? Why would you not? The thing is, why do you think so, right? Why do you think so? Because here's the thing about it, right? Um, why Why do you think that would not be the case? That's the question that I'm going to ask you, right? Why do you think that would not be the case? Because here's the thing, right? Can you get every girl there is, right? Obviously not, right? So when you say that they get all the girls, well, what do you mean? Do you mean the girls that are in a club? Of course. Of course, you're going to get all the girls in a club when you have all the money in the world because the whole entire premise of a club is just an absolute pretentious endeavor, okay? A complete waste of time, for one. The other side of that is that it is a mutual ground of trashy people trying to connect with other trashy people, right? So of course they're going to accomplish that of what you're saying. Lavin says, listen to Andrew's recent podcast with Neil. Okay, it's worth listening to. He talks about the whole thing from start to right now. Uh what what exactly does that prove? Right? That he predicted his own arrest. Well, I can tell you, I've talked to many gangsters or people that are about that street life that have told me prior, hey, you know what? I think I'm going in, man. I'm like, well, what do you mean you're going in? Well, this such and such happened and, yada, yada. And, I was caught on camera and, um, now I got to go run out of the country and now I got to go and, hit a lick and now, because I hit that lick, now the cops are coming after me. Of course. Like, homies know, bro. Homies know. He says, so real life gangsters. He says, oh my goodness. I mean, sure. And you know what? You want to hear the crazy part about it? Sabachi, you know them too. You know them as well. All right, let me stop before we catch a big U case going on here. Anyways, yeah. So Spike says, "Can I join the talk show?" Um, can you join the talk show? You know what? Here's the thing, right? I didn't do this on StreamYard. If this was on StreamYard, I could easily throw in a link at you right now, and you could come in. But for now, yeah, unfortunately, Spike, I don't have the link with me. But what you can do is, yeah, you know, he said you should play the Undertaker, man. It would be awesome. Play the Undertaker, as in, you know what? Here's the thing, right? I'm not 6'10", right? You know, for me to play the Undertaker, I would have to be that height, right? Because I think the premise of his whole entire character is that he's a 6'10" guy. You know, I'm barely 6 feet. You know what I mean? So, let alone 6 feet 10. So, he says the F this ain't a game. Send a 20. Yes. What is that in reference to? You should play the. Oh, okay. Because Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. From the guy that wanted to, hop in on the show. Yeah. Who me says no, not Undertaker, Tail. Oh, Undertale. Okay. Spike Diesel says, "Do you live with your mama?" No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't think my parents don't even live in the United States. But yeah, we'll just we'll leave it at that. Um, yeah, man. You know why? Look, remember that dude? Which dude are you talking about? Um, Levin says, "Do you think the Tates are guilty?" Here's the thing, right? I can't answer that question because I don't want to see anyone go to prison. All right. Here's the thing, though. Is it plausible that they did it? Of course, it's plausible. Okay. Everything that they have self admitted, okay, literally spells that these guys were pimps. These guys knew how to prostitute. These guys knew how to transport women and to make women go to work in terms of prostitution and in terms of committing zina, all in the name of making him money, right? He knew what he was doing. So, although I don't want to see anyone go to jail or prison, the evidence is overwhelming if you're asking me from a legal standpoint, an educated legal standpoint. Everything, everything doesn't spell good for them. Here's the thing, though. It's not the United States that has the burden of proof. It's not the United States that has the jurisdiction against them or the crimes that they've committed. We're not in the United States. The only thing that the United States can do is have a trial to determine whether he should be extradited to the UK or not. Because it is the UK that has all the information, not the United States. So that's also another thing to keep in mind. Victory says, how did they get out of it the first time then? Um, that's a good question, right? Romania is an example of that, being that it's a third world country. They're very sloppy in the way that they handle evidence. Um, that's one reason for it. The other reason is the lack of cooperation from each government. When there's a lack of communication there, it's very difficult to bring the case together. Also, he's been accused multiple times of multiple actions, some actions done multiple times to different people. But nonetheless, some of them, were very hard to find the burden of proof, right? Because remember, I don't know how it is in other countries, but obviously in the United States, it is the burden of proof for the government, the district attorneys, and whatnot. He says, gangsters. Oh my, British Karen voice. Oh my, some gangsters. Oh my. But yeah, and also a different case, also, right? Different cases, different people. Some of those cases you could prove, some of them you can't. I think that's just, the reason why we are where we are right now and why we were where we were at with the Tates not too long ago.
It shows just how extreme he believes his current treatment is. So, because Andrew is being held inside the special housing unit, he is separated from what is known as the general population or Gen Pop, which is where most detainees are housed and have more regular.
Now, look, I don't know a lot about state prison or federal prison or anything like that, right? I barely know anything about prison at all, right? I'm not going to pretend to, but I've had enough homies who have been there that would know. And I'll tell, obviously, I know general information, like general population means that you are going to be with everybody else, right? Everybody else that doesn't have any funny charges. If you get put in PC, if let's say you're a gang member, right? You get put in PC. I mean, that is the worst label that you could get as an active gang member, right? Because if you're an active gang member, the I'm not going to say prestige because nothing is really prestigious about prison, but the more respectable act in serving prison is doing it in general population. At least in California terms, in general population is where all the gang members are going to be. So if you're from the Crip card, if you're from the Blood card, you're from the Norteños or the Sureño cards, right? All of that is going to be determined right there in who you're going to run with while you're there, right? Sometimes um, being a celebrity can easily take you out of general population, unless, of course, you're Blueface, right? Now, Blueface, when he was serving time in prison in, I believe it was, yeah, it was California where he was serving, his time. Um, he wanted to be in general population because, yes, he was a celebrity. He should be in protective custody, also known as PC, but he's also a known gang member and he wanted to maintain that reputation. Blueface, a security, my boy. Blueface security, my boy. What is that? Is that a saying that he says, like saying that the security's my boy? What do you mean by that?
Or contact with one another. And then in Andrew's case, his world has basically been reduced to a locked cell, concrete walls, and very limited contact outside the unit. Andrew once again emphasized that he is an extradition detainee who has not been convicted of the British charges. In his own words, he is innocent until proven guilty. Wanted.
I gotta tell you, right? Andrew Tate, he says, this nigga protects him. Oh, okay, okay. His security is my. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Oh, okay. So you know his security. Got it, got it. Okay, okay. I thought you were quoting him. Sorry, I didn't know that you were saying that one of his security is your boy. Got it, got it. Okay, okay. Sorry, I misinterpreted that. Okay, I got it. Okay. So yeah, just kind of giving you an example of what general population is, not you per se. I know but for everybody else out there who are squares and may not really know that life, right? You know what I mean? Not that I well, anyways, yeah.
By a foreign state and is still an American citizen. And then he ended the statement by asking one simple question: why am I here? So obviously, Andrew believes the conditions he's being held under are far more extreme than his current legal situation justifies. And just think about the contrast for a second. This is someone who became famous for living the high life, the women, the private jets, the luxury
Savachi says my population is the streets.
homes, the big old A's. Now he's sitting inside a locked federal unit where almost every part of his daily life is controlled by someone else. So that is the reality surrounding Andrew Tate right now. And a lot of people feel like the situation he's in right now is justified. A lot of people online believe Andrew Tate put himself in this position. And one question keeps coming up: how does Andrew Tate alone end up facing 42 criminal charges if there's absolutely nothing behind any of them? Now, the number.
So look, this can go two ways, right? Number one, he really is guilty, and all of these things that he's being investigated for, there's plausible reality into why they're going after him, right? Look, here's something you guys have to understand, right? You know when somebody is coming after you because of what you did. All right. Now, obviously, if you have friends or people that are about that life or have been living that life, they're not going to vehemently go out and uh, admit it, not firsthand around. They're not just going to blatantly admit it. Hey, this is why We do what we do. No, they're going to deny it because that is what you do. You keep your mouth closed, all the way until the end. But inside, For example, um, I know plenty of people that have been investigated by the feds, right? And I'm talking about just in the simplest means, right? I'm talking about like online posts. I'm not talking about any active cases or anything like that, or anything to begin with. Uh, I'm just talking in general, right? User says, Savachi, shut up. Why don't you shut up? I mean, like, think about how about this, right? Let's send you to the Shadow Realm. Boom. There you go. You got sent to the Shadow Realm. You don't have a profile pic, okay? You don't have your real name. You're not a real person. You don't have any emotion going on the internet. On top of that, you probably don't even have $5,000 in your bank account. You probably don't have health care insurance. You probably got your check engine lights on in your car, lit up like a Christmas tree. On top of that, you probably got underlining uh, mental health issues that you need to deal with. So you come in here to try and basically mirror your whole shit life to us. Gush says Earth is flat and we are effing around about this nonsense. The Earth is flat and we're effing around about this nonsense. I mean, you really believe that the Earth is flat? And what is so nonsensical about this, right? Because here's the thing, I kind of agree with you. I agree with you that spending time doing news about the Tates, or at least consuming it, is a waste of time. But it's not a waste of time if you are covering it and making money off of it on YouTube, right? He says, "What does the Shadow Realm do?" It just means that you basically get sent. You get banned or you get kicked out. Can they still? Yes, they can still watch. They just can't comment. So that's what it is. Yeah, they can't. Yeah. Um, Gush says, with the Tates. Yeah. So all right. I think the more important question, Gush, is to ask why are the Tates so popular, right? Aside from the fact that they had a deliberate plan in sort of making themselves popular, right? They created the whole entire clip farm system of social media, right? This is the reason why Andrew Tate lives on the internet, even if his content gets banned over and over again, right? He can live on the internet because of people like me who cover everything that I don't cover everything that he does, but obviously he's part of the MMA apparatus to where I have to cover him to a certain extent, and even more so if he has a fight. But Andrew Tate is one of those guys where he doesn't need to have a fight going on in order for you to cover him. And this is the reason why he's heavily involved in a lot of politics. And with good reason. I think Andrew Tate is a response to the ongoing problems that many of the males are facing today. And quite frankly, I don't think that he helps in that situation in any kind of way. Because look, if you've had problems trying to reproduce, trying to marry, or trying to find a partner, and you haven't done it already, and at 40 years old or 30 years old, or however old you are, I don't think Andrew Tate is going to help you with that. Like, you either got it or you don't. And here's the thing, right? Even if you don't got it, always understand this whole idea of like, oh, how I'm going to teach you to be, more of a Casanova, how you're going to get girls or this and that, the art of picking up women, the pick up artists or this and that. Guys, I hate to tell you, there is no magic trick to it. Somebody either likes you or they don't. They are either attracted to you or they're not. They either want to marry you for whatever reason, whether that would be religiously motivational, or for the pure, unadulterated concept of attraction. He says, laughing my ass off. This nigga said, Casanova. You know what? Here's the thing, right? Andrew Tate, believe it or not, is a lot like Casanova. If you know anything about the biography of Casanova, I think it is a telltale sign of where Andrew Tate is going to be at. Okay. I'm going to show you the biography of Casanova and tell me if this sounds any familiar uh to the trajectory of Andrew Tate. All right. So Giacomo Casanova. All right. Giacomo Casanova. That is his real name. All right. Was born in April 2nd, 1725. Died just 2 years before the turn of the 19th century. Okay. So 1798 is when he died. All right. Let's read his biography. Okay. Nadia psychology would be appalled. Nadia psychology, is that Sadia Khan or Nadia? Who is Nadia psychology again? Remind me. That's not Dr. Ramani, is it? No, that's not it. Okay, Nadia psychology. That's someone that I don't know. I'm assuming that's a YouTuber that's a psychologist as well. Um, all right, so Casanova. Okay, born to a family of actors. Okay, studied law at the University of Padua and received minor orders in the Catholic Church with a view towards pursuing a career in being a lawyer. All right. So Casanova was known to use the lover boy treatment. All right. Oh, Sadia psychology. I mean, okay, the British one. Yeah, Sadia Khan. Right. That's what I was talking about. Uh, Gushing says Tate isn't propped by the Jewish clan, so they are obsessed with shutting him down. We know a few of those little lover boys from Sac. Oh man, yeah, we do. Um, let's see here. He was a state spy, was employed to dry out Casanova's knowledge of catabolism and Freemasonry to examine his library. How about this? Imprisonment and escape. So, how about this? On July 26th, 1755, at age 30, Casanova was arrested for affront to religion and common decency. The tribunal have taken the cognizance of the grave faults committed by Casanova, primarily in public outrages against the holy religion. Their excellencies have caused him to be arrested and imprisoned under the Leads. The Leads was a prison of 7 cells on top floors of the east wing of the Dog's Palace, reserved for prisoners of higher status as well as certain types of offenders, such as political prisoners, defrocked libertarian priests, monks, usurers, people who charge interest pretty much, and named for lead plates covering the palace roof. Um, Okay, lover boys make that their whole identity. Yeah, talk about the lover boy identity when dudes make that their whole persona. R&B type of dudes that look like Usher and Ray J. Yes. Here's the thing though, right? Even R&B dudes are not really like that. I mean, obviously they have a talent for singing R&B, so they have to do it. That is their job. That is what they do, but they don't necessarily live out their lyrics, right? Like that's the thing with R&B singers. They're not really like the type to live out their lyrics unless of course you're R. Kelly. Somebody's telling me no, but my body is telling me yeah. Oh man, come to think of it, like just how creepy that song is after, like really, understanding what was all that about. Guy Kelly, please stop it, man. You know what I mean? Stop it. Um, and he says free R. Kelly, bro. Drizzy Goat says free R. Kelly. Yeah, I don't know about that, man. You know, um, more like shank up R. Kelly, but I don't know. Nobody's out there, really doing him like that. Because there's a lot of people that still support R. Kelly even after the fact. Not all Kellys are the same. Well, there you go. There's Machine Gun Kelly. There's
More charges.
pretty boy Josh Kelly this weekend. He's the king of R&B. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm biased. I'm gonna say Tyrese because yeah, I'll go with Tyrese. Sabachi Financial says the original Machine Gun Kelly was in Alcatraz. That's right. Yeah, that's right, man. Machine Gun
Alone has
Kelly's is
not proved
fronting on
guilt.
that name. Celeste case is fake. Chris
Charges are
says.
allegations, and Andrew Tate continues to deny every single one of them. But from the outside looking in, it's easy to understand why so many people are questioning how his situation became this serious. Like I said, I have another video coming up where I go much deeper into Andrew's beliefs that he's being set up by.
Chris says Tupac grew up with Jewish mentors and gave his name. Is that right? Okay, wow, that's interesting. He says, "Oh, Andrew, Prince Andrew."
What he calls the Matrix. He's
Yeah, I believe he's in house arrest right now. I mean, they arrested him, but essentially he's in house arrest, so it doesn't make any sense really. Chris says Jeffrey Epstein files include many Jewish parties. He says no, he didn't. Esh, don't disrespect Pac. Yeah, I've never heard that, man. I mean, for you to say that maybe you're Jewish and maybe he says, yeah, Tupac grew up with Jewish mentors. Look it up. When you say Jewish, do you mean black Israelites? Let me know in the comment section below.
Spent years arguing that powerful institutions would eventually come after him, destroy his reputation, and try to remove him. But other people look at the exact same situation and see something completely different. They see years of controversy, multiple legal cases, and
Okay,
accusations
so the guy's name is Stonefeld. Okay.
coming from different directions. And they ask whether Andrew's own choices eventually caught up with him. So I was actually having a conversation with a friend about this the other day. And whether you like Andrew Tate or not, he's been involved in enough controversy to make people question his character, his judgment, and the way he has lived his life. His name has become tied to so many allegations and legal battles that, for a lot of people, separating the public image from the actual evidence has become almost impossible. Of course, I cannot tell you whether Andrew is innocent or guilty. That is not my job. And none of these charges have.
Okay, Chris said Layla Steinfeld. Okay, Layla Steinfeld. Let me see here. That name does sound familiar in the realm of Tupac, though, so you might be onto something here. Stein. It's not Haley Steinfeld. He says, you've been doing the late streams lately. Yeah, it's one of them things where it was the only time available that I had. So, I figured I'd do it at this time, one of them things. He says that's how he attended the Juilliard or School of Arts. Okay, okay. So that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Layla Steinfeld. I don't see any thing about Layla Steinfeld and Tupac. Okay, maybe I need to type in Tupac for that one. Okay, Layla Steinfeld was Tupac's first manager. Okay. Okay, so this makes sense. Yeah, manager, obviously, Jewish people very big into the whole Steinberg. Okay, Layla Steinberg. Here we go. All right. So yeah, Jewish people are very big into the media, very big into journalism, very big into public relations, as Arabs as well. That's obviously the profession and the field of work that I'm in is within the public relations realm. So yes, um, Manny Man says Armin versus Marab rumored for UFC 321. Marab and Armin, nah, bro, two different weight classes. I think they're going to set up Charles Oliveira and Armin for the BMF belt. I think that's what they're going to do. So, okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So she was a manager. Okay. So thank you for that information. Yes. So I have seen this woman before around Tupac before, especially in his documentaries, sort of highlighting his early life.
Resulted in a conviction. The courts will have to examine the evidence and decide what can actually be proven. But it does feel like this situation has been building for a very long time. Andrew himself appears to believe that he always knew something like this was coming. To him, every ban, Every investigation and arrest has been a part of
Um, the native tutor says hi. Chris says Israel, Tech City, Tel Aviv.
the same larger
Is
attack.
that where you're?
And
Is
whether
that where you're from, Chris? You're from Tel Aviv.
you believe that explanation or not, one thing is undeniable. The legal pressure around him has continued to grow. Every time one case appears to slow down, another investigation or some other situation seems to take its place. So for now, Andrew Tate remains inside federal detention in Miami, fighting to avoid being sent to the United Kingdom and publicly describing conditions that he already says are extremely difficult. Even though Andrew has only been there for a matter of days, he's already questioning why he's been placed under such restrictive conditions. And the way he's describing it, especially considering how Andrew Tate has, I guess, marketed or branded himself. I mean, if Andrew Tate is saying these things, then you know it's bad, right? Because I'm sure, just based on what I've seen from Andrew, he seems like a guy who has a lot of pride. And so now he has basically put his pride aside to share, like, yo, I'm in such a bad position. This is what I'm dealing with. So I feel like if Andrew Tate is describing it like this, then it really is bad. So, based on the seriousness of the charges, the extradition process, and the number of legal battles still surrounding Andrew Tate, I think Andrew Tate has a long way to go.
All right. So, uh, let's talk about Casanova being on the run, right? And tell me if this is very familiar to you, because as I've read about Casanova over the years, I started thinking, you know what? He reminds me a lot of Andrew Tate. Listen to this, all right? So at the time when he was on the run, his mission failed and he fled to Cologne, Germany, and Stuttgart in the spring of 1760, where he lost the rest of his fortune. Listen to this, all right? This is where he ran to Germany and lost all of his fortune. Tell me if this sounds familiar. He is yet again arrested for his debts, okay, but managed to escape to Switzerland. Wary of his wanton life, Casanova visited the monastery of Einseldine and considered the simple, scholarly life of a monk, which is something I think Andrew Tate should have done, when he converted to Islam, but that's neither here or there, right? Become a Salafi, just leave all behind and, the simple life, right? Well, he returned to his hotel to think on a decision, only to encounter a new object of desire and reverting to his old instincts. Sound familiar? All right. All thoughts of the monk's life were quickly forgotten. Moving on, he visited Albert von Haller and Voltaire and arrived in Marseille and Genoa, Florence and Rome, Naples, Modena, and Turin, moving from one sexual romp to another. In 1960, Casanova started styling himself the Chevalier de Singault, a name he was used to increasingly he was used to having increasingly for the rest of his life. On occasion, he would call himself Count de Foresi, using his mother's maiden name, and Pope Clement the 13th presented Casanova with the papal order and the golden spur. He had impressive cross and ribbons to display on his chest. All right. So back in Paris, he sets out on one of the most outrageous schemes, convincing his old dupe, the Marquise de Autory, that he would turn her into a young man through occult means. If it doesn't get any stranger than that, the plan did not yield Casanova the big payoff he had hoped for, and that Marquise finally lost faith in him. So Savachi says your downfall is being moron. Okay. He converted, but then went back to his old ways. Correct. Very similar to Andrew Tate. Vanilla Coke or cherry Coke? I don't drink any Coke whatsoever. Cindy Rigby says through occult leads. Yes, through occult means. So there you have it. Casanova traveled to England in 1763, right? Hoping to sell his idea of the state lottery to British officials, right? Very similar to Andrew Tate promoting gambling. All right. He wrote that the English have a character not found anywhere else common to the whole nation. So Casanova has said this about the English. What does Andrew Tate say about the English? He says that it is a very unique society, very proud of his English heritage, even though he's of Irish descent, right? I think what he means, look, uh, you can't be called English if you were not born in England, right? You're called British, but that's neither here or there. All right. So, yeah, he even worked up an audience all the way to George the Third. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, all right, George the Third was the king of England during the time of the American Revolution. So Casanova was living right around this time. All right. So let's talk more about Casanova's European expeditions, right? He went to the Austrian Netherlands, all right, recovered, and then for the next 3 years, traveled all over Europe. Sound familiar? Right? I'm telling you, Andrew Tate and Casanova have a very close life, right, in terms of like comparisons. He says, right, my daughter's father is from England. Huh, okay. Rigby, what? Okay, Rigby, that sounds like an English name. Are you from England? Are you from Scotland, Wales, or what part of the UK are you from? Or if you're from the UK at all, or maybe is Rigby the last name that you use as as a married name of some sort? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, so all right. All right, the average coach trip being 30 miles. Again, his principal goal was to sell his lottery scheme to other governments and repeat great success he had with the French government. So Andrew Tate had great success with the Romanian government. What does he do? He tries to get in good with the Trumps. I'm telling you, man, there is so much parallels between the life of Casanova and Andrew Tate, right? Very shockingly similar to how how they are, right? Very similar to how they are. So, um, yeah. All right. Let's see here. Shockingly very similar. Hmm. Okay. Uh, Rigby says, yes, my dad is from Turks and Caicos. Okay. My mother is from Haiti, and my ex is from Manchester, England. All right. Well, shout out to Manchester, England. Was he a Manchester City fan or a Manchester United fan? I'm a Manchester City fan. So yeah, let me know if he was a follower of football or anything like that. But I was born and raised in Florida. All right, man. Well, shout outs to Florida. Shout outs to Florida. Yes, and there is a huge Haitian population down there in Florida, from what I understand. Manchester is owned by the Saudis. Correction, Manchester City is owned by the Emiratis. The Saudis own Newcastle, which is True Geordie's favorite team, by the way. That's why the Saudis give jobs to True Geordie because of his affiliations with Newcastle. And Newcastle is a Saudi owned football club now, right? It's a very historical club, but obviously, the Saudis bought it. And yeah, the fans and couldn't be any happier. So, he says, shout outs to Turkey, Turkey El Sheikh. Yes. Rigby says, yes, Manchester United watched every Sunday, so I got hooked, but we love anything British. There you go, man. Yeah, I would say I'm the same way, right? I like British rap. I like, I like British boxing. I think British boxing is far more exciting than that of American boxing. So, Sabachi Financial says, shot out alert. Shot out alert. Shot out alert. Yes, yes. Um, what else? What else is going on with this Andrew Tate? Oh yeah, so I wanted to show you this video from a CIA agent. analyzing this whole thing. I thought this was really interesting, right? The way that he broke down the brain and how people are looking at this. Let me see here. Andrew Bustamante. Let's see here. My husband used to ejaculate prematurely. Oh, okay. Um, Sabachi Financial says British food is trash. All they eat is pork and salt. Yeah, yeah. New season of Mobland is about to come out. You know what, Marty? There's this good cop show that I'm watching on Paramount. Right, it's called Sheriff's County. It takes place in a fictional Northern California town. I think the town that they were trying to depict, I think, is either Redding or like somewhere in Mendocino County or somewhere in Chino or something like that. Um, but it's interesting, very interesting, right? So the leading role is played by the woman who played Brody's wife in Homeland, right? I believe she was a Brazilian woman. She's married to Ben McKenzie. You know who Ben McKenzie is? Also known as Ben Sherman. The guy who played Ben Sherman in Southland is Ben McKenzie, right? So who better to learn about California cop roles than somebody who has played an LA cop on TV. So Savachi says they love brainwashing everyone with good cop shows. Oh my, yeah, it is. It is because obviously the whole entire premise is to brainwash specifically kids, right? Specifically kids because they want to recruit future recruits, I suppose. So that's how they do it. All right, Andrew Bustamante on Andrew Tate. Let's see here. Okay. Why Andrew Tate what was actually arrested and it's not what you think. Okay. Yes, the feel good show. Yes, that's
Depending on who you ask, he's either a criminal, a political target, a master manipulator, or a victim of government overreach. But what if
Oh, it's called Sheriff County. Sheriff County. And then, the agency is also pretty good in it's all on Paramount, by the way. So Sheriff's County, right? Northern California town, right? It's like you got to think, right? They're the sheriffs, so they do things a little bit differently than, let's say, city cops. They're a little bit more interpersonal with the citizens that they sort of serve in this small county area, right? So TK says, "Who is they? They is a wild way to describe Jewish brainwashing propaganda." Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Victory says, "Oh no, it's a badass female." You know what? So I said the same thing, right? Until I saw the premise of the show, the writing, the storylines, the plot, the setting, more importantly, right? The context of the setting. Because remember, what I told you that I loved about Southland, right? Is that for one, it takes place at a time when they had um, they had no cameras. They had no like body cameras, right? So it was unique. It built a whole different story, right? They were able to get away with things and create like corrupt cop storylines that you wouldn't otherwise if there was, body cams around. So, but this one is one of them type of things, good old American town, you know what I mean? Everybody knows everybody type of thing. The leading role, her dad was an illegal drug. I'm not illegal drug, an illegal weed grower, right? So automatically, I knew straight away they were talking about like Chino, California, right? But they call it like Edgewater. They don't want to call it the real town of California because obviously those townspeople don't want to get sued or they don't, they just don't want to have like a whole bunch of tourists pouring out there. So they created like a fictional town in Northern California. But yeah, it is pretty interesting. TK says, "Stop watching Jewish-made television. Show us." Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is. It is. It is one of them things. Victory says, I'll check it out if you think it's good. I usually don't like shows with that. Yeah, I said the same thing, but um, she was trained by Ben McKenzie, also known as Ben Sherman. So I'm sure. Yeah, funny. We both watched Southland at the same time. Yeah, dude, because it's the algorithm, man. The algorithm, is designed that way. And speaking of algorithm, hear CIA agent Andrew Bustamante talk about why you're being psyops into this whole Andrew Tate situation. Listen to this.
One of those explanations was incomplete. As a former CIA officer, I've learned that the first story that everyone agrees on is rarely the whole story. Not
You hear that? So the first story that everyone agrees on is usually not the whole story.
because it's necessarily false, but because it's the only part that anyone's paying attention to. So let me ask you a different question. Why has one internet personality become the subject of investigations, arrests?
Yeah, that is a good question, right? Why is one internet personality become the subject of this whole entire fiasco?
Extradition battles, political debate, and nonstop international media attention across multiple governments. I'm not asking whether Andrew Tate is guilty or not. That's for the courts to decide. I'm asking something different. If you were an intelligence officer looking at this case from 30,000 feet, what questions would you ask before forming an opinion? Would you only study Andrew Tate? Or would you also study the governments pursuing him, the government speaking about him, the media amplifying him, and the millions of people whose opinions are being shaped by the story? Because intelligence isn't about deciding who's right, it's about understanding incentives. Who benefits from this narrative? Who benefits from the opposite narrative? And why has this case become so strategically important that governments across multiple countries have become involved? Those are the questions I want to explore today. Not to tell you what to think, but to show you how intelligence officers think before they reach a conclusion. Can I ask you a question? Sure thing. How much do you spend on
All
groceries per
right.
week?
So,
$150. 200 probably. One. It's impossible to separate Andrew Tate, the person, from Andrew Tate, the media phenomenon, because the two have become intertwined. Every time you see Andrew Tate, he's on some form of media, and he has become acutely aware.
and by the way, that is all deliberate. Obviously, this is what made Andrew Tate very famous was that he had a strategy, and I don't know if anybody was propping him up or this is something that he came up on his own, but it was a very brilliant strategy, and he changed the game of internet clipping forever.
That every time he makes any kind of appearance, it is a widespread media appearance. That means all the content that you see coming from him, whether it's on his channel or whether it's on some third party channel like the news or like some sort of tabloid or even some sort of interview, you have to understand he's cultivating the narrative as much as he can because he understands the media battlefield surrounding him. That's not saying he's good, he's bad, he's innocent, or he's guilty. That's just saying he is highly media sensitive, what we would call media literate, about how he portrays himself, how he portrays his message, and what the counter messages and counter narratives are that are attacking him. When
So this is ultimately what separates him from other fighters or people that come from his background in Muay Thai or MMA or boxing. Very media literate. Obviously, there's a lot of guys in the world of combat sports that are media literate. Daniel Cormier comes to mind. Gable Stevenson comes to mind. Well, what do they have in common? Obviously, they were former Olympians. Brock Lesnar is also media trained. What is that indicative of? The fact that he worked for the WWE. Andrew Tate, where did he learn all this? Just by himself, through swag, just natural ability, or just pure luck? Either way, he was doing something right. And this is the reason why he garnered the type of attention that he has over the years.
When you talk about a media battlefield, what you're really talking about is an influence operation, an offensive influence operation, and an opposing defensive information operation. The offensive operation being the one coming from Andrew Tate, trying to justify his actions and defend his position, and the defensive operation coming from those who stand opposed to Andrew Tate, those social groups and legal actions that are pursuing him. Because you have this strong contrast in information, this offensive and defensive contrast from Andrew Tate, from those opposed to Andrew Tate, it creates a very noisy information landscape.
All right, so that's important to understand here, right? The last thing that he just said right now. It created a very noisy landscape of information, right? He also mentioned that everything when it comes to conversation is about being on the offense or being on the defense, right? Remember when I told you that when I was younger, I used to get mad easily over something that somebody would say, somebody could just easily provoke me into a fight, right? It's what you do when you're young and dumb. Well, when you get older and you get wiser, you start to realize there is a reason why this person is insulting me. Oh, this person is insulting me because he doesn't like his life. This person is insulting me because he's tired of his life. He doesn't have the stamina. He doesn't have the mental fortitude. He doesn't have the mental conditioning and the durability to continue on. So they're angry, they're mad, they're upset at the world. And how are they going to take it out on everybody else? Or how, well, it just so happens that you're right there. Oh, look at this person. Look at him. He looks so happy. F him. Why is he walking around smiling? Right? This is the first thing that they think in their head. So what do? They go and they insult you. Oh, you're not up to par with this. You ain't got this. You ain't got that. You ain't up on this. You ain't up on that, doing anything to devalue you, right? It's also the same thing when you were teenagers, right? When you were out there trying to hound at girls or whatever, right? The teenage boys, trying to holler at the teenage girls, right? What is it that they do? Well, what they do is sometimes immature competition, right? In front of the girl, right? Oh, they'll start pushing each other just to show who's stronger or this and that. You're clearly doing that to try and obtain a desired result. So, what is it that a person does that's trying to provoke you do? They are saying disparaging things to you because they are trying to create a desired result. Just like what some of you do in the chats. Why do you go out and you insult me or say these things about me or try to garner my attention? What is it? Well, simply because number one, a lot of you hate your lives. And therefore, when you see anybody that's either happy with their lives or is content with their lives, you want to go and you want to destroy it because you have some internal issues going on. So it took me 41 years of my life to really realize that and coming to the realization that everything anybody has ever said to me is just in motivation to try and provoke me for whatever reason they have. Provoke me into a fight, provoke me into an altercation, provoke me into a situation where they can create some kind of leverage against me, through me getting angry, right? It made me realize like there is a reason why people do this. It is because they are either trying to create a desired result, or they don't like their life, or they just don't have the right information in front of them. Victory says, plus, when you are a young combative male, you are kind of looking for an excuse to fight. LOL. Yeah, that's also another thing that I took into consideration too, right? Look, remember when you asked me, Victory? Remember when you asked me, hey, did you get picked on a lot when you were a kid? Um, I could have easily answered to you yes, right? And let me tell you why I didn't answer yes, because I remember what I said when you asked me this. I said, in my exact answer, no more than the next guy. Getting in fights was fun when I was young. Of course, man. Of course. And to a certain extent, it still is. It still is. I think depending on, if you still have a certain amount of testosterone at a certain older age, yeah, it still is fun. The point is, if you have enough testosterone in your body, yes, fighting is fun. It is absolutely fun. So, um, like this idiot right here, coming into the stream, trying to provoke me. So what do? I just go and delete him and get him up out of here. He says, just not worth it anymore. Correct. And this is the sentiment that I feel when I don't have to go and answer these people. I just go and block them. I just said, you know what? I'm not going to go and fight some nameless dude that has no name, no, and probably has no intention of meeting me at all, right? So, man, let me tell you, if you're under 20, you have a lot to learn about your brain and how it works and why it thinks the way that it does. And by the way, this video right here, this audio, this content that we're playing right here, this particular sort of speaks on that.
Meaning you don't really know what's true and what's not true, what's completely true, what's incomplete, and what's complete.
Okay, yeah, so that is an important thing, right? You don't know what is true or what is not true. This is the example that I showed you guys earlier, right? Rappers will call their enemies broke. I never understood this, right? If you're a rapper, you probably got some homies that are broke. Ain't not all of you ballin'? Not all of you are ballin'. Yeah, the hood trophy of the block, who is the head rapper, of the whole entire block. Yeah, he's doing good. Not everybody in the hood is doing good, right? So it's kind of in that same example, right? So how are you calling your enemy broke, but your allies and your friends are probably even more broke than your actual enemy, who's a rapper himself, right? Who was probably living better than your homeboys, maybe even living better than you. But this is what rappers do. They call each other broke, not knowing or forgetting that they are offending people that they are with. So it's like, yeah, you start understanding, what is worth behind what people are saying and whether there's some plausible truth behind it, right? Um, for example, you got these, kids, right, who really aren't doing much with their lives, right? Those kids that are like, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to take a gap year off, right? I'm going to take a gap year off, not even just to go work. Oh, I'm just going to go take a gap year off after high school because I want to go find myself." One of them kids, right? Um,
Completely false. You just have an incredible amount of noise that's getting picked up and amplified by all the other voices that are around it. When the human brain is exposed to this much informational chaos, it doesn't operate analytically. It falls back on survival instincts. And there are three different ways that your brain is chemically.
So that's very interesting that he said that, right? He said when you are inundated with so much information, your brain goes on survival instincts. You know what I thought about from a technical point of view? Because remember, we're not just talking about politics here, we're also talking about how the mind works, and even with that, how the mind works in relationship to the technical aspects of martial arts, right? So George St. Pierre said that he likes to do this a lot. He likes to feint at guys because when you are constantly doing feints and fakes and this and that, you're overloading your opponent with information, constantly inundating him with information to the point where you're going to react in a survival mode and in turn create a lot of mistakes for themselves when they react or choose to take those actions.
Wired to keep you alive. And those three different survival instincts all play a role in what's happening right now in the Andrew Tate debate. The first survival instinct that your brain falls back on is something called cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are shortcuts that your brain makes that are based on past experiences, personal values, and personal opinions. Biases are not factual, and they certainly aren't analytical by nature. What they are is a predetermined shortcut that your brain makes in order to reach conclusions quickly without having to go through a cognitive process that judges information.
In other words, you're an intellectual sloth. All right. Instead of relying on your cognitive abilities to decipher and deduct every point that needs to be proven or not proven. Instead, you fall back into the lowest common denominator, the path of least resistance, also known as being an intellectual sloth.
And reaches a cognitively demanding conclusion. They are shortcuts that are designed to keep you alive, to help you make fast decisions under pressure, to use minimal resources to reach a conclusion that will almost certainly keep you alive. Not
So, in other words, your opinion on Andrew Tate is based on how you've been trying to survive your whole entire life, right? Eating processed food, that is a survival mechanism. Why? I mean, it's not the healthiest thing for you, but it is the path of least resistance. Well, I don't want to cook. You ain't got a bitch that cooks for you. You ain't got a wife. You ain't got no girlfriend. You don't got your mom around or this. So what do? You go and you get takeout. You get processed food. You get, canned food or well, whatever that's easy to make, right? It's the path of least resistance because you're in survival mechanism. You don't know how to cook, but you know that if you process this quick information or this processed canned food right away, you'll have something to eat because you're hungry. And that is survival. So, never be in a survival mechanism whatsoever, right? You want to know why certain people don't qualify for security clearances in the military? One of them is debt. When you're in debt, you're in survival mode and your brain is affected in a different way. And that is the reason why these intelligence agencies disqualify you from candidacy into any of their positions because they don't want somebody that's in survival mechanism. You don't think properly. But in reverse of that, you can put your enemy into a survival mechanism, make him make mistakes. Okay, make him faint when he shouldn't, duck when he should have dodged, zig when he should have zagged.
not necessarily something that will help you thrive, but something that will help you survive. Cognitive biases happen
You
in the
see?
caveman brain.
You see, it's not necessarily something that's going to help you thrive. It's going to help you survive, just like processed food. It's not going to help you thrive athletically. It's not going to help you get a six pack. It's not going to help you get in shape, but it does help you survive for that time being. Um, have the song in your headphones playing someday by Flipside matches your drive. Huh. Okay. Someday. Okay. I think I know that song. I'm gonna play that song briefly right now just for you. And then I'm probably gonna have to edit it out later on and take out the song. But yeah. Um Someday by Flipside. I'm gonna play that song for you right now. You be listening to Crossfade? No, who is that? Who's Crossfade? Someday.
I was able to take my resume from this
All
to
right.
this.
I'm gonna play. Wow. Wow. 2005. How about that? Hey, tell me why the lead singer looks like Jesse on Fire. Yo, Noel, shout out to you, Noel. Thank you for reminding me of that song. He matches your drive. You're right, man. We do kind of have that that same flip side drive. Wow, man. 2005 this song came out. Wow. 2026 anyone? Wow, man. Brought back some memories on that one, boy. All right, let's go back to Andrew Bustamante on this one. Oh, Victory says, have you seen any of Aiden and Broner's little sidekicks? No, no, no. I watch his clips, like his stream of clips. I don't really watch like the whole entire thing, but yeah.
Part of our brain that was there to bypass the whole prefrontal cortex that we use for all of our day to day thinking, analyzing, and rationalizing. So, what that means is the vast majority of what you hear about Andrew Tate isn't something that people have thought out. It isn't something that people have analyzed or synthesized or put real rigor around. It's simply people reacting according to their own cognitive biases, their own mental shortcuts. And those shortcuts are framed around things like personal beliefs, religion, personal preferences, past experiences. So, whether you're talking about men or women, what's happening is that they're leaning back on their cognitive biases, their pre existing beliefs, their personal values.
Okay. Well, Bobby Green showed up to spar the other day, and Broner wouldn't let him spar. Yeah, yeah. Because look, Adrian Broner is the more accomplished boxer than Bobby Green, obviously, right? But Bobby Green is an active fighter. He's in shape. And regardless of whatever accolades Adrian Broner has, he was going to put it on Adrian Broner, Bobby Green. So that's why he decided, I'd rather not bother with it.
Values, their personal opinions, preferences, and experiences as they start to reach and form a conclusion about Andrew Tate. That's why you have men and women who support him and men and women who stand against him because it's
All right, listen to this, right? There is a reason why some people stand with Andrew Tate and why they don't stand with Andrew Tate. And these are the reasons that you have to listen to as to why, right here.
it's based on their own personal experiences, their personal background. So if they have a personal background or value set that's in favor of traditional male female roles and dominant male roles and submissive female roles, they very likely support Andrew Tate.
All
Likewise,
right, and that makes a lot of sense. Victory says boxers are so delusional sometimes. Correct. And that delusionality, Andrew Bustamante is actually talking about here as well.
if they have a background that stands opposed to that, that's more progressive than that, that maybe even believes in male female equality and mutual respect, they will certainly stand opposed to Andrew Tate without putting any critical thought or analysis or information based.
And we kind of knew that already, but the way that he articulated it sort of made sense there, right? Obviously, if you sort of have a feminist ideal of the world, it's easy for you to sort of lean away from Andrew Tate, right? But if you have a masculine view of the world, it's easy for you to agree with him. Or if you are, let's say, a neutral party like I am, you're kind of seeing this from both sides, like, you know what? There's things that are good about Andrew Tate, and then there's things that are just like, highly exaggerated. You also got to understand everything that we do on the internet here is exaggerated, all for all for the realm of entertainment, including myself. Okay, for the people that know me in real life, they know that I act completely different than I do. Well, actually, no, I don't really act that different, but there are instances where I sort of do turn it up, and those reasons being are to entertain, to garner views and attention. After all, we're all here for this the sake of entertainment by the end of the day, but also entertainment with informative ways of conveying a message. And with that in mind, that is all that I have for this one right now, guys. Very good late night stream. Shout out to everybody around the world that is tapped in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to see the rest of this video that I'm reacting to, it's by Andrew Bustamante reacting to Andrew Tate's arrest and titled It's Not What You Think. All right. Sabachi Financial says chill. Shout outs to everybody around the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one. I'm going to get some sleep, get some training in the morning, and do it all over again, inshallah. He says, break the live stream record tonight. No, no, we're not breaking any live stream records tonight, but we did do pretty good tonight. And